All right, let's jump right in with a deep dive into this video. 15 things the rich don't do that poor people do. It's making waves, sparking debate online,
Yeah.
and we're going to see what's in there.
Yeah. It really is everywhere you look these days.
Yeah, so we're going to break it down and see if there are any real insights or if it's just entertainment, right?
Right. And it's so interesting how this video, just straight up in your face, taps into this desire we all have to succeed, I think. And, that whole journey toward financial stability can be really confusing.
It is.
Yeah. So instead of just like taking everything the video says as fact, let's think critically about it, right?
Totally,
Like,
yeah.
what are they really getting at here? And how does this all reflect how we see, as a society, wealth and the habits we have?
One of the things that really caught my eye right off the bat was this idea that, like, watching a ton of TV is a poor people thing.
Okay.
Like, the video almost makes fun of anyone who, chills out with Netflix, saying it's just wasted time that could be, spent building your own empire.
Right.
It even says, like, the rich, they want to be on TV, not watch it, which I
Right.
thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. And that actually ties into, I think, the idea of opportunity cost, you know? Every hour you're like glued to a show is an hour that you're not, well, doing something that could maybe earn you money or help your career.
Right.
Now, of course, it doesn't mean we got to become like workaholics or anything.
Right, no.
But it does make you think about how we choose to use our time, right? And the trade-offs we make every day.
Yeah, and it's not even just about money, Think about, like, how much our attention is valued these days.
Oh, absolutely.
Companies are fighting for our eyeballs, and the more time we're just passively consuming, the less time we have to actively create,
Yeah,
or to learn or to build real relationships.
that's a great point. It's
Yeah.
all connected.
Yeah. So
And actually, talking about passive consumption, the video, it kind of goes after sports fans, too.
oh yeah.
It says, like, poor people obsess over sports while rich people are out there, like, making their own game.
Yeah, I get what they're trying to say there, like, take control of your life, don't just be a spectator.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's, like, kind of dismissive of how important leisure time and passion are.
Yeah, I agree. The video kind of frames leisure as this, like, distraction from success. But studies show that leisure activities, like sports, can actually make you more productive.
Really?
Yeah, and more creative. They help you relieve stress, and they can even build a sense of community, like belonging somewhere.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, this one might make some people raise their eyebrows.
Okay.
The video connects fast food and poverty, saying, poor people don't care about healthy eating. And then that leads to them doing poorly in, like, every part of life.
I see. On the surface, it sounds like it's all about personal choice, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
Studies show a really strong link between how much money you have and whether you can get nutritious food.
Right.
Like, lower income areas often don't even have grocery stores with fresh produce, but fast food, that's everywhere, and it's cheap.
So while we can't ignore personal responsibility in, like, what we choose to eat,
Sure.
we also can't ignore these big systemic things like food deserts and the cost of healthy food.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings us to something the video doesn't really talk about much, which is the connection between the choices we make and the way society is set up,
Yeah, yeah.
While taking responsibility for ourselves is important, saying that all success or failure is just because of what we do, well, that ignores the fact that inequality exists.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of choices, the video has some strong opinions about buying stuff on sale.
Oh, okay.
It basically says that buying discounted items is a sign you're not good with money and have a poor mindset.
It's interesting how that, like, plays into how we see consumption and status symbols,
Right.
The video seems to say that rich people always pay full price to show they're wealthy, while bargain hunting is like, you're not abundant enough.
But what about being a smart shopper? Like, saving money on everyday stuff could free up resources for experiences, education, even those stocks the video talks about.
Absolutely. It's not always about looking rich, right?
Oh,
Sometimes good financial choices mean finding the best value, regardless of what other people think.
exactly. So the video also goes after another habit, waking up late.
Okay.
It contrasts this with how early, like, billionaires wake up, practically saying if you sleep in, you're lazy and won't succeed.
It's funny how that fits into that whole image of the, driven entrepreneur who's up before the sun, conquering the world, right?
Right, right.
But while there's research about how early rising is good for some people, we also know that not everyone works best on the same schedule.
Yeah, like, there are tons of creative people, entrepreneurs, even CEOs who stay up late and do their best work outside the normal 9 to 5.
Exactly. And that just shows how dangerous it is to take these broad generalizations as like the truth, you know?
Right.
What works for one person, even a billionaire, might not be the best way for someone else.
And, speaking of billionaires, the video puts them on this pedestal, like they're superhuman with their drive and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps saying to be personally responsible, pushing viewers to make it happen, and throws out these quotes like the world doesn't owe you anything and success comes from taking responsibility.
Those phrases really get at that idea of self-reliance, of owning your life. And it's true that your mindset is huge in achieving anything.
For sure.
But, and I think this is important, we got to remember that this perspective can be a little misleading too, you know?
Yeah, like it's saying if you're not successful, it's just because you didn't try hard enough.
Right.
But what about luck, privilege, and those systemic barriers we talked about? Can we really say success is all about individual effort?
That's the question, right? Because
Yeah.
while being personally responsible can be super motivating, it's also important to understand that the world's a complicated place.
We're not just like robots programmed for success, are we?
Right.
Yeah. There are so many things outside of ourselves that can affect our journey.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting, finding that balance between taking charge of our own choices and understanding that there are forces outside of our control too.
All right, before we dig into more habits from this video, I'm curious, what's sticking out to you so far? What's hitting home, and what's making you think, wait a minute, or maybe even want to argue a bit? Keep those thoughts in mind, because we're diving into even more interesting claims in the next part of our deep dive.
So welcome back. As we keep going through this video, one thing that really jumps out is the focus on your mindset.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's not just about what you do, but like the beliefs and attitudes behind those actions.
Totally. Like it's almost presenting a guide to having that success mindset. And each habit is like a building block,
Mm-hmm.
Take, for instance, that point about blaming others. The video says poor people tend to blame their situation for their problems,
Yeah.
while rich people take responsibility and learn from their mistakes.
That really fits with this classic idea of like having an internal versus an external locus of control. Have you heard of that?
I think so.
Yeah. So people with an internal locus of control, they believe they can actually influence their lives,
Uh-huh.
while those with an external locus of control, they feel like things just happen to them.
I get that.
Yeah. So I definitely see the appeal of this whole own your destiny message.
It's powerful for sure.
It is. It encourages you to focus on what you can control instead of dwelling on what you can't.
But, and I think this is important, there's got to be a balance, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like personal responsibility is key, but sometimes stuff happens that's outside our control, right?
Absolutely.
So while it's tempting to say successful people take ownership, unsuccessful people blame others, it's way more complicated than that, don't you think?
Life's not that simple.
Right.
Life throws curveballs, and sometimes those curveballs are, systemic barriers, unexpected setbacks, or even just bad luck.
Yeah.
And to say that every bad thing that happens is your fault, well, that just ignores how complex life really is.
It's like the video wants us to build this like mental fortress of resilience and self-reliance, which is great. But maybe it's missing those softer skills like empathy and compassion.
That's a great point. It's not just about pushing forward all the time, but also understanding and navigating how interconnected our lives are.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
So let's change gears a bit and talk about another financial habit that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
This whole emphasis on saving versus spending.
Right.
The video basically says that poor people live in the moment, indulging in instant gratification, while the rich are focused on long-term financial security.
That reminds me of that classic marshmallow experiment
Oh, yeah.
where they studied delayed gratification. Remember that?
Yeah.
This idea that if you can resist a small reward now for a bigger one later, well, that's often linked to success in different areas of life, including finances.
But is it really as simple as save your money, get rich? We know that for a lot of people, especially those struggling financially, saving can feel impossible, right?
That's where the context is so important.
Yeah.
The video, with its, aspirational tone, it doesn't really address what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck or struggle to meet your basic needs. So when your immediate worry is putting food on the table or keeping a roof over your head,
Yeah.
long-term savings goals, well, they might not be the priority.
It's almost like the video assumes everyone starts at the same place.
Yeah.
with the same opportunities and resources.
Exactly. And that's where those systemic inequalities we talked about come back. And
Yeah.
the ability to save often depends on having a certain level of financial stability and security, which not everyone has.
And that leads us to another point the video makes. Using credit for unnecessary purchases.
Uh-huh.
It paints this picture of poor people drowning in debt from impulse buys, while the rich use credit strategically for investments and building wealth.
There's no question that credit can be a double-edged sword.
For sure.
Used wisely, it can be powerful for, taking advantage of opportunities and reaching your financial goals.
Yeah.
But used irresponsibly, it can trap you in a cycle of debt that's hard to escape.
I think what's missing from the video is that middle ground, that gray area where credit isn't inherently good or bad, but just a tool that needs to be used carefully and with understanding.
It's about educating ourselves on how credit works, understanding the risks, and making informed choices based on our own situations and goals.
Right. And sometimes those choices might involve using credit for essential things, unexpected expenses, or even investments that could actually improve our finances, right?
Absolutely. It's not always black and white. It's about navigating the real-life complexities of money.
Exactly.
Speaking of complex decisions, the video also touches on family planning, briefly.
Oh, right.
It claims that poor people have kids too early, leading to financial strain, while the rich wait until they're financially secure.
This is definitely a sensitive topic, and I think we need to be really careful here.
Totally.
While the financial realities of raising a kid are real, saying the only reason to have kids is financial petrification feels way too simplistic, don't you think?
I agree. The video seems to suggest there's this perfect timeline for life, where you have to be financially stable before starting a family.
Yeah.
But life rarely works out that neatly, does it?
Nope.
And it also ignores all the emotional, social, and cultural reasons people choose to have kids.
It's a personal decision, and while being financially prepared is important, it's just one piece of a much bigger picture, right?
It is.
Okay, so moving on to another health-related habit, the video says poor people neglect their health by avoiding the doctor,
Yeah.
while rich people prioritize preventative care and regular checkups.
This really shows how connected physical well-being and financial well-being are.
Right.
Taking care of your health is an investment in your future, no doubt.
Absolutely, and it's not just about avoiding big health problems either.
Yeah.
Regular checkups can catch things early, so they don't become serious and expensive later.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
The video might be a bit blunt, but that message about putting your health first is important.
I'm noticing a pattern here.
Oh, okay.
A lot of what the video says, whether it's saving money, avoiding debt, taking care of your health, or even planning a family, it boils down to choosing long-term goals over immediate desires.
Yeah,
It's about delayed gratification and thinking strategically.
that's a great observation. It's almost like the video is pushing for a whole mindset shift,
Right.
where we move away from impulsive reactions and towards intentional actions that match what we want to achieve.
It's about recognizing that the choices we make today, even the small ones, can have a big impact on our future.
Totally, yeah.
And this brings us to another interesting point from the video, the claim that poor people don't follow through on their ideas.
Ah, yes, the difference between dreaming and doing. The video suggests that wealthy people aren't just dreamers, they're action takers. They're willing to put in the work to make their ideas real.
It's like they have this unwavering belief that they can achieve their vision, combined with a drive to make it happen.
While the video portrays people who struggle financially as lacking that follow-through,
Right.
maybe getting stuck in a loop of planning and dreaming without taking action.
It's like that famous quote, I think it's Edison who said it, genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, having great ideas isn't enough. You got to be willing to work hard and turn those ideas into reality.
That's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
Vision meets action and the potential becomes something real.
And I think that's a perfect way to transition into the last part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll cover a few more habits from the video and wrap up with some key takeaways for navigating this complex and often controversial topic. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. We've been looking at all these habits that supposedly separate the rich from the poor.
Yeah.
Breaking down this video and its claims, exploring everything from mindset to financial strategies, to the role of personal responsibility. And just when I thought we'd covered it all,
Okay.
the video throws in one last kind of unexpected point.
Oh, what's that?
It says poor people think others should help them.
Mm.
It's like one more push for that self-made idea that successful people don't take handouts or expect others to fix their problems.
It really ties back to that main theme of, taking control of your life, your destiny,
Yeah.
which can be empowering, but also sometimes a little out of touch with how hard things can be in real life.
Right. It's like saying, hey, if you're struggling, just work harder and don't expect any help.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those times when, like, the system is against you or something unexpected happens, things you can't control?
Exactly. Think about things like, access to good education, healthcare, or even just a safe and affordable place to live. Those things can really affect someone's ability to get ahead financially, no matter how much they work or how determined they are.
So while the video's focus on self-reliance can be motivating, we have to acknowledge that not everyone starts from the same place.
For sure.
And sometimes getting a little help can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. This takes us back to that balance we've been talking about, individual responsibility versus the support systems around us.
Yeah, the video leans hard on that pull yourself up by your bootstraps idea, but I think it's crucial to look at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
We're not living in isolation, right? We're part of communities, societies, and systems that can either help or hurt our progress.
Exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important, to challenge simple narratives and recognize that life is complicated.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into rich habits versus poor habits,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways we can walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest one is to think critically.
Yeah.
This video, it presents a strong but kind of one-sided view of what makes people wealthy and successful. It's full of catchy sayings and tips, but it's on us, the viewers, to look closer, question what it's saying, and consider other points of view.
It's like we've been given this toolbox
Right.
filled with different tools and techniques, but we got to figure out which ones are right for us and how to use them in our own lives.
We can't just blindly follow every habit or mindset in the video and expect to become rich, right?
Right.
It takes self-awareness, careful thought, and a willingness to adapt these principles to our own unique situations.
Maybe that's the most valuable rich habit of all. Being able to think for yourself, question things, and create your own path based on what you value, your goals, and your understanding of the world.
I love that. It's not about copying others, but about constantly learning, growing, and adapting.
So as you go on your own journey, remember there's no magic formula for success.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the challenges, question the easy answers, and keep working towards a life that reflects your deepest dreams.
Beautifully said. That's a great way to wrap up our deep dive today.
It is, yeah.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little fun.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep growing.